We can finally talk about some real music. Drake is clearly one of the most popular rappers of his generation, and depending on who you ask, he may be one of the greatest to ever live. For me personally, with everything he's done, I would argue that he's top 5 all time. Yes, I'm light-skinned. That's a conversation for a different day. Drake announced that he's coming to save music in 2023 with his new album, For All the Dogs. But with Drake hinting at retirement and announcing a new album, I just wanted to give him flowers as we look back on his career and we rank his projects. Quick disclaimer, some of his projects I'm not gonna consider. It's pretty crazy to think about now, but Drake has been around for like 15 years at this point, and he's dropped a lot of music. And just so we're clear, I will not be ranking Room for Improvement or Comeback Season. Yes, I'm an old man. Yes, I was around when those projects came out, but it's kind of hard to compare with his newer work. It seems like two completely different people. I'm also not ranking his collab projects for obvious reasons, Scary Hour EPs and Care Package. Care Package isn't fair because it's kind of like a greatest hits album. I really just wanted to focus on his main projects or else we'd be here all day. I mean, even cutting out those other projects, we still have 11 more to talk about. Now that we got that out the way, let's talk about his worst project. Coming in at number 11, Dark Lane Demo Tapes. Drake doesn't have any album that I would say is bad, but this is definitely my least favorite. Drake labeled this project as a mixtape, but who even knows what that means anymore? A lot of people say he took a SoundCloud approach and tried some new sounds. He didn't work with producers he usually works with, like Boy Wonder, Zombie, and many others. To me, this project was just boring. And don't get me wrong, this mixtape isn't all bad. It has some great songs like Chicago, Say When, Desires, but all of those came out before we even knew he was doing a project. Deep Pockets and Losses are cool, but nothing special. A song like 1993 with Playboi Carti would have been really cool if it didn't have Carti on it. He has a song called Demons with Fabio Foreign. Mid. He also has a song called War, which is trash. When it comes to drill from New York or the UK, I hate it. So for me, this is by far Drake's worst project. Now for the rest of the projects in the top 10, I would say that I pretty much enjoy them all, even though I like some more than others. Number 10 is his 2021 album and one of the worst album covers I've ever seen, Certified Lover Boy. Now I'm on the side where I think CLB is a good album, but a lot of people I talk to, it seems like they don't like it, which I can kind of see because a lot of songs on this album, they seem very forgettable. It seems like a lot of people really love that first song, Champagne Poetry. I don't care about that song. Love All, Fair Trade, and The Bible, not bad songs, but not something I run back to. Fountains featuring Tim's was disappointing to me, and I honestly forgot that Kid Cudi was even on the album. That wasn't the Cudi and Drake record that I've been waiting 10 plus years for. A lot of the songs on CLB are cool. Like, they're not bad, it's just not special. Drake is a prime example of it's not what you say, but how you say it. Like, he has a gift where he can say something and just make it sound good. I mean, he made Way Too Sexy into a hit record, and I know a lot of people hate that song, but every time I got in my car, it was on the radio every single time. You Only Live Twice with Lil Wayne and Rick Ross is another cool song, but it sounds like it was made in 2011. But he does have a lot of good songs like Knife Talk, Girls Want Girls, TSU, and even some great ones like Pipe Down, which might be one of my favorite Drake records, and I would argue maybe one of his best songs ever. I honestly don't get the hate for this album. Like, I haven't even mentioned Race My Mind, 7 AM on Bridle Path, The Remorse. He has so many good songs. I do wish the track list was cut down a little bit, but I feel like you could argue that on almost every Drake project. CLB coming in at number 10, not a bad album. It's cool. Coming in at number 9 is an album which I feel like Drake was at a point in his life where he was still trying to figure himself out. He was at a crossroads where this project was going to determine if he has the potential to be one of the greatest ever or just another overhyped guy that didn't do anything. And I'm talking about his debut album, Thank Me Later. If I had to summarize this album into one word, safe. Turning the nostalgia in my brain off, I don't think this album has aged well at all. I always say this about Thank Me Later and Sideline Story by J. Cole. Both good albums for the time, both aged poorly. Thank Me Later didn't really have any direction. It felt like he was unsure about himself, and he had a lot of big name features, and it seemed like he just wanted to be like, hey, look who I got on my debut album. Alicia Keys, Jay-Z, Young Jeezy, The Dream, Nicki and Wayne, of course. Not a bad album by any means, but just compared to some of his newer work, it just can't compete. But this album has some of my favorite Drake songs on it. I love Fireworks, and The Resistance is in my personal top 5 favorite Drake songs, and people look at me crazy like they've never heard that before. Find Your Love and Miss Me are still good records today, but songs like Over, Up All Night, Fancy, Thank Me Now, they just don't hit the same anymore. I never liked that song Karaoke. Show Me a Good Time. I forgot about Show Me a Good Time. As a longtime fan, It is pretty cool to see how different he was back then compared to this superstar, megastar that he is today. Around this point in the list, this is where I started to struggle trying to rank these albums. Even though I really enjoy this project, at number 8, I have to go with his 2018 album, Scorpion. Scorpion had his share of controversy because of the obvious Pusha T situation. Was it always going to be a 2-disc album? Who knows? It's supposed to be one side hip hop, one side R&B, but looking at the track list, that makes no sense. And I don't care. Absolutely nothing about Nice for What, In My Feelings, or March 14th is an R&B record. This album has 25 songs on it. I feel like if you cut it down to about 15, we could be talking about an all-time classic. This album had 4 huge radio records in God's Plan, Nice for What, In My Feelings, and Nonstop. It has great lyrical records like Emotionless, which I feel like is one of Drake's best songs. It has good album cuts like I'm Upset, 8 out of 10, There's There More, and then R&B songs like After Dark and Jaded, which Jaded, top 5 R&B record of all time. But the bad records are bad. I hate that song Mob Ties so much. Talk Up with Jay-Z stinks, and that bullshit Michael Jackson song. And the only reason he even did that song was so we could say that he had a Michael Jackson feature. But I feel like this could have been a truly great album if you just cut some of the fat off. For number 7, people always swear that I'm trolling, but I'm being dead serious when I say that I like this album. My number 7 Drake project is honestly Nevermind, and I agree with Drake. It's all good if you don't get it yet. We'll wait for you to catch up. People have said for years they want Drake to switch it up, they want Drake to do something new. He finally does, and people still complain. I'm no expert when it comes to house music, but I liked what he did. People I've never heard speak about house music suddenly became house experts just to try to dump on Drake. 14 tracks, 13 when not counting the intro, 52 minutes, which is short for a Drake project. To me, he shot 10 out of 13. The only ones I don't like are Downhill, Ties That Bond, and Falling Back, which is the first song. Falling Back is one of the worst hooks I've ever heard in my life, and I don't know who was in that studio and told him that that sounded good. You are not gonna look me in my face and tell me an album with Jimmy Cooks, Calling My Name, Overdrive, Sticky, and Text Go Green, which is my favorite song, is a bad album. I liked this album when I first heard it, but a lot of my friends didn't. They would hit me in the group chat, yo, this album stinks, it's trash. And then they went out to a party that summer, they saw how the women responded to it, and then all of a sudden, they liked it. I have personally seen women go crazy once this album comes on, so I don't care what nobody says. Honestly, Nevermind is a good album. I will die on that hill, even though it comes in at number 7. Coming in at number 6 is a Drake project that shows that I'm not just some mindless Drake stan, because when this first came out, I did not like this. But number 6 is his playlist, not an album, More Life. This album has so much replay value. It's multiple songs on here that I still listen to on a regular basis to this day. And I think it came out like 5-6 years ago. Free Smoke and Can't Have Everything still go crazy in the gym. Do Not Disturb and Lose You are the Drake records I love when he's mainly just rapping. Teenage Fever, Nothing's Into Something, and all of the Island Drizzy records are great on here. I always joke about the whole playlist thing, but I do get why he called it that. This is a project where you can literally just hit play or shuffle and leave it alone. He does have some misses though, like I hate UK drill, I hate UK rap in general. Like the people seem cool, the vibes out there seem amazing, no hate to that area. But whenever they rap, it sounds like they got peanut butter in their mouth. No Long Talk is terrible, and he straight up copied XXXTentacion in that song KMT. Glow by Drake and Kanye West. That shit stinks. For me, I'm cool if I never hear another Drake and Kanye West song together, but that's a conversation for a different day. Coming in at number 6, More Life. Coming in at number 5 is another album that shows that I'm not just some mindless Drake stan or Aubrey Angel, because when this album first came out, I hated this so much. I wrote an entire album review basically calling this trash. I ain't go as far as Joe Budden, but I was pretty much just calling this trash. But once this album clicked, it became one of my favorites. Drake's 5th best album is his 2016 release, Views. Bro, I remember the first time hearing the leaks of One Dance and Controller. I thought they were the worst songs Drake had ever made. I heard the leaks before they officially released, so that had already put a bad taste in my mouth. If my memory's correct, I believe Hotline Bling came out, but it wasn't clear if it was gonna be on the album or not. Drake is my guy, but I still feel like he did draw him dirty with the whole remix thing. I remember it being labeled Hotline Bling Cha-Cha Remix. He dropped One Dance and Pop Style with Kanye and Jay-Z at the same time. Pop Style is still terrible. Channing Tatum, I did not like this album when it first came out, but then a month or two later, I realized that I kept listening to it more and more. And then I was like, wait a minute, I pretty much listened to this entire album on a regular basis. It's so many songs that I once hated but now I love them. I still don't know what they were doing with that Pimp C verse on Faithful, because his verse makes no sense to me. His verse just seems out of place, and it seems like another example of Drake just wanting to show off what kind of features he can get. But man, we talking about Feel No Ways, Feel No Ways, You With Me, Hype, Redemption, Child's Play, Grammys. I could just go on and on. And then to finish the album, he threw in Hotline Bling at the end, which in my opinion is one of the greatest songs ever. Views turned into such a great album, and it's aged extremely well. Like, I hear people joke all the time about how great life was in 2016, and I feel like this album played a part of that. So for me, Views comes in at number 5. Coming in at number 4 is a project that was pretty hard for me to rank, but it's a project that completely changed music, and it completely changed the way people look at Drake. I'm kind of cheating with this one because I'm technically combining 2 projects together, but coming in at number 4 is So Far Gone, the mixtape / EP. The crazy thing about So Far Gone is the fact that it came out 14 years ago, but it still sounds like it could have just been released today. While Drake is one of the most popular rappers in the game, he's also one of the most hated, and even the biggest Drake hater would be like, oh yeah, that So Far Gone is fire. It's really hard to rank this, but I got this coming in at number 4. Top to bottom, incredible project. The only song I'm not really a fan of is Little Bit. Drake was experimenting with that one, but I'm good on that. But man, we're talking about Houston, Atlanta, Vegas, Successful, Night Off, Say What's Real, The Calm, Unstoppable. I can basically just read this entire track list. I haven't even mentioned Best I Ever Had or Fear, which is one of my personal favorite Drake records. Some people like to say that Drake doesn't have any classics, but to me, this is by far a classic project, one of the best mixtapes from that entire blog era. And shout out to Lil Wayne for not having an ego and actually letting his artist shine. Wayne was featured like 4 times on here, and I applaud him because Wayne around that time was the biggest rapper in the world. Great mixtape, classic mixtape, and me having this at number 4 isn't me trying to be disrespectful. This just shows how great I think Drake's projects are. For number 3, some people will deny it, but I remember. I was actually outside in the streets when this project came out, and it was a lot of mixed reactions to it. I loved this project from the moment I heard it. It came out the day before my birthday. Coming in at number 3 is his 2015 mixtape, If You're Reading This, It's Too Late. From what I remember, this project had people really torn. With this project, I feel like it was an extension from his single Worst Behavior on Nothing Was the Same. This was the first Drake project in which we got what I would consider was his swag rap era. Records like 10 Bands, Energy, No Tellin', it was just a different way of him rapping than we were used to at the time. Now, obviously, we know about the whole Quentin Miller writing situation, so that clearly played a part in it. Now, I don't care about none of that. This album is full of slaps, and it's aged extremely well. This album had so many records that I feel are underappreciated. Star 67 is amazing. Madonna, No Tellin', Know Yourself. Remember when people were going around calling their friends woes? That was an awkward time. Jungle literally may be a top 5 Drake song, and that's stuffed at the bottom of the album. 6 Man, You and the Six, How About Now? Slap after slap. The only song on here I really hate is Preach featuring Party Next Door, but he made up for it on the Wednesday Night interlude. Great album. I will argue that it's a classic album. I'm gonna be really surprised if people are upset that I have it so high. Now for the last 2 albums, I kept flipping back and forth because I'm torn. I mean, I'm sure you were probably able to guess the final 2 albums before the video even started. It seems like everyone I talk to usually has these 2 albums. It just kind of depends on your order. Both great albums, both classic albums. It's no wrong answer. I'm not gonna be upset if you tell me that you have these 2 flipped. But coming in for me at number 2, Nothing Was the Same. Nothing Was the Same is maybe the last solo Drake album that everyone loved the first time they heard it. Like today, it seems like a lot of people hate the music when they first hear it, and then they love it later. From the very start, Drake opens up with maybe his best album intro in Tuscan Leather. This album came out 10 years ago. I've never heard a single person say anything bad about that song. The track list speaks for itself. You have an album that's a great listen from start to finish. Furthest Thing, From Time, Connect. Connect is a very underrated song. Wu-Tang Forever, Own It, Come Through. The first time I heard the beat switch on Come Through, I swear I had an outer body experience.
Baby, come through, you deserve rounds tonight.
Just looking at the track list, the language, Too Much, Pound Cake, All Me. I am mad they couldn't clear the sample at the end of All Me, because if you remember on the original when it came out, Drake had another verse, but on the album, they had to cut it out completely. And I haven't even mentioned Starting From the Bottom or Hold On, We're Going Home. It's not really much that I can say I dislike about this album. Well, Worst Behavior, in my opinion, that song stinks. I used to like it when it first came out, but now I just want to throw up every time I hear it. 305 To My City may be the worst song on this album, but if that's considered your worst song, That's great. I'm not even a big Jay-Z fan, but I don't think his verse on Pound Cake was as bad as people try to make it out to be. This album is Drake at his best. Everything is polished, it's aged well, the rapping is great, the R&B is great. It's not too much bad to say about it. Like I said, I consider this album a classic. To me, it's 1A, 1B with the next album. Can't go wrong with either one. It's kind of just preference. This next album is the soundtrack to every light-skinned man's life. This album single-handedly fractured the relationship between light-skinned men and dark-skinned men around the world. But the best Drake album, in my opinion, is no other than Take Care. Whenever I hear people say that Drake doesn't have a single classic album, it just automatically lets me know that you're a Drake hater and I shouldn't care about your opinion. Take Care is one of the greatest albums of the 2010s. It's one of the greatest albums ever, and to me, it's Drake's best album. The thing that I love the most about this album is that it had a clear, distinct sound and vibe. Thank Me Later Drake seemed unsure and seemed like he was chasing fame. Take Care seemed like Drake was comfortable and knew exactly what he wanted to do. When you think about Take Care, you think about dark, cold, moody music. It sounds like it's 30 degrees outside, it's snowing, and your girlfriend told you she went to sleep early the night before. I feel like this album gets a bad rap because people try to label it soft, simp music, blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you something. Every man is a simp for somebody. People hate Marvin's Room, but to me, it's one of the greatest R&B songs of this generation. I listen to it when I'm not even sad. For a lot of men, whether they want to admit it or not, they've been in that situation. People try to act like Drake is some loser because he made that song when some of you idiots crash out over a woman because she didn't want to give you her phone number. Every time I play this album and that Over My Dead Body beat kicks in, man, he goes from that to Shot For Me, then Headlines, then Crew Love. The only miss on this album to me is the title track Take Care with Rihanna. It's not a bad song, but I always skip it. But it seems like a lot of people love it. Underground King and Will Be Fine are underrated, and then Drake may have gone on the greatest 10-track run I've ever heard in my life. Lord Knows speaks for itself, but from Lord Knows to Hate Sleeping Alone, come on, man. And what's even crazier is he got rid of Club Paradise, Free Spirit, and Dreams Money Can Buy. Those were the throwaways. Between Drake and The Weeknd during this time, they completely changed the sound of music. To me, Take Care is Drake's best album. But thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe if you're new here. We talk about a bunch of different things on this channel. What are your thoughts on my list? What did I get right? What did I get wrong? What is your favorite Drake album? Let me know in the comment section below. I go by Genesis, and as always, love you guys. Tell someone you love them. Until next time, see you in the next life.